So we looked at how to initialize arrays with input values. We did it already. We haven't looked at initializing it with random values, but that's fairly easy as well. It's just you're just pulling an integer out of the random number generator. Printing arrays, we kind of looked at that already. Summing all elements, we looked at. Finding the largest, we did that. Well, we kind of did that. We looked at for all numbers that were greater than the average, but we can look at finding the largest as well. Finding the smallest index of the largest element. So there's some examples we'll look at. And random shuffling. Again, that's going to involve the random number generator. And shifting elements. So this is the scanner. I think we already did something like this where we said enter. Yeah, we already did this in our previous example, which was the analyze numbers, basically, and also the shopping list. This is a random number generator. So this time, all we're really going to do is assign a random number to this. Test. And we probably should just call this values. This will EX. It's finding a double. So we want to cast. We can just cast it to it. I think that's fine. And then I think all we should do is, let's just start this at 0. We're not going to do anything pretty. Do another for loop where we simply display what we got. All 0. We didn't seed it. That's why. Didn't give it a seed value. That's why. Yeah. We may need to go more than 100. This clock ticks. Let's see. This clock ticks, which is the problem, I think. Why is that giving us a value? It should give us a random number. Printing arrays is straightforward as well. I tried times 1,000. Didn't work. So rounding down to a float. I went as high as 10,000 actually. Try 100,000. If it's a millisecond, we should get numbers. Why is that not working? Let me try something here. Let's do this. Figure out what's going on. Double D equal to random. So say D and let's try that. Yeah, you see the numbers coming out are 0.92. Oh, okay, I know why. This is why. Times 100. What happened was it casted it to an int before it multiplied it by 100. That's what happened. Let's try it now. Ta-da! Now we've got numbers. Yeah. So now we've got numbers. And printing is easy. Summing, we already saw a previous example doing summing. So finding the maximum value of a list is fairly straightforward. What you normally do is you set the first item number in the list as the max. And then whether it is or not, it doesn't matter. Because then you're going to go through and compare every other number in the list to that. And if the next number in the list is greater than that max, then that becomes the new max right here. And then you go through the loop and you finally do it. And by the time you get to it, you've essentially found the maximum number of all the numbers. So we could go over to our analyze numbers. Were these doubles? Actually equal to, let's say, numbers. Of course, it wants us to enter numbers, which I don't want to do. Okay, I'll just run through this real quick and we'll get the average and the max. Should work. So let's say 5, 3, 9, 7, 5, 6, 5, 65, 8, 20, 25, 36. So, and it figured out correctly the maximum value was 65, which was the maximum. So, there's that loop right there. Random shuffling is using the random number generator. Okay, so what it's doing is it's pulling an index out of it. And this is kind of how you would shuffle, a bunch of cards. Randomly, generate them. All right. Okay, these are doubles. I don't want to bother constructing all of them. Double my list is equal to 10, 4, 5, 3, 7. That's good enough. Okay, what are you complaining about now? My list, non-static. What should be static? Okay. So what happens here is it basically pulls an index based on the random number generator, and then it shuffles them. It uses a temporary double to take the one from the one that's currently in the for loop and puts it in the temp. Then it takes the one from where it randomly drew a number, puts it in there, and then goes through and puts the random index, the temporary value, back into the random index. So that basically swaps the two numbers. And, then you would use another for loop to simply print them out. Int I equals 0. Unless my stupid part. And then you would simply print them out. Basically, if you look at that, what you would see is that every time you run it, you should get a different order. Right, so before it started with 4, now it started with 7, then 10, so you see you get a different order. So you see how the random can be used to generate random cards and stuff like that? And we'll see some examples of that as well. Any questions so far? Now this shifting example just shifts it by one position. So it's basically what you're doing is you're saying the prior value is equal to the current value. And you just switch each time. We did something like that when we did the addition. Enhanced for loop. Now this is a very helpful thing. JDK 1.5 or Java 5 introduced a new for loop that enables you to traverse the complete array sequentially without having to use an index. Basically simplifies things. Still a for loop, but instead of having to create an integer as an index and say it's less than a certain value and increment it, what it's basically saying is that I know you're going to use this for an array, so we'll bypass a lot of that prior stuff. So it's an enhanced for loop. So I could take this for loop and I could enhance it. And I could simply say for double, say D colon my list, and then here I would just print D. So it cuts things down a bit. Now I can run this again, and it's just a shortcut. The other for loop like that we have up here, and these two for loops are functionally exactly the same, but this is a general purpose for loop for doing something X number of times. Element usually means a value out of the array. So an element would be one of the rows out of the index. Like my list sub 2 would mean the second element from the array. Element generally refers to one item in the list or one item in the array. All right. The issue, though, is that you don't have access to the index variable if you're trying to go through it, and it's also read-only. So you can't reference, you don't know where in the list you are. It's part of the problem. And so if you need to know what that index is, or if you need to change a value in the array, you have to use the original for loop. It's not that big of a deal. Lotto numbers. Okay, so we've got an example here, and I think I've got that example. Let me see. No, maybe I don't. Lotto numbers. Where do we get lotto numbers from? It will generate lotto numbers. Would not be difficult to do. So, Lotto pick 10. Each ticket has 10 unique numbers ranging from 1 to 99. You buy a lot of tickets. You like to have your tickets cover all numbers from 1 to 99. Write a program that reads the ticket numbers from a file and checks whether all numbers are covered. Assume the last number in the file is 0. It's interesting. Can we use an array for that? So it's using an array. Oh, I see. So it's going to be a Boolean array of 100, essentially. So let's just go ahead and so it's going to be int numbers equal to new int 100. Oh, actually, we want this to be Boolean now that I think about it. And these will default to false. The question is, it wants you to get these numbers from a file. How do you do that? We haven't done file I/O yet. And I don't really think I want to get into file I/O just yet. Because that's kind of beyond where we're at. File I/O will come up somewhere. Or maybe not. We did not cover it. We should do file input output. I can show you a fairly easy way of doing it. So we're going to we can use this args array. So instead of doing a file, let's just do that for now. Hopefully this will work. I'm going to have to go out to the command prompt to actually do this.